Welcome back to another episode of In Between the Lines. Today's video, I will be making another NBA lottery mock draft video, but we'll be making these selections based off who I think the teams will actually pick. Now let's get right into it. With the Atlanta Hawks on the board here, I think it comes down to two selections: Zachary Risachet and Alex Sarr. Ultimately, I think the Atlanta Hawks will end up picking Alex Sarr, even though there's a lot of buzz and hype going on with Zachary Risachet right now with how he's performing in the French playoffs. I know he's been putting up some big numbers in the last couple of games, but based off of what this team needs and a player who I think has one of the highest floors and one of the highest ceilings, if not the highest ceiling in this draft. And the player I talk about is obviously Alex Sarr here. Regardless if they decide to keep Trae Young or not, I think Alex Sarr will be a good stepping stone in the right direction, a good building block for the team. A lot of people compare him to Jaren Jackson Jr. I like to compare him more to a player like Bam Adebayo, just a little taller. He's 7'1". And the reason why I like to compare him to Bam is because he's very versatile on the defense side. He's great in the interior defense. He's actually really good in the perimeter as well. He can really slide his feet. He's very mobile. He's very athletic. He has some similarities to Giannis in a sense to where he can there's times where I've seen him bring the ball up the floor. He's gone coast to coast. And there's a lot of upside with his shot. So I know the biggest downside on him is his lack of creation or lack of offensive threat. But I think that's something he can definitely grow into and get a lot of opportunity, especially playing in Atlanta. So let's go with Alex Sarr here. Now with the second overall pick with the Washington Wizards, I think picking Nikola Topic is going to be something they do think about, only because I think they do need a floor setter here. But again, with all the hype going on with Zachary Risachet and how he's been performing, I think they'll ultimately pick Zachary Risachet going number 2 here. The main thing with him is that there's a lot of, I guess, there's a lot of doubt as far as his self creation and being able to put the ball on the floor, create for himself. So being that this team doesn't really have a player to really create for others, that's kind of my only thing with picking him this high to the Wizards. But if he can develop self creation, then obviously this like striking gold for the Washington Wizards. And with a team like this, I think you just need someone to with maximum talent, with maximum upside. And I think Zachary Shade has, probably the highest upside with the talent remaining, in my opinion, or if not one of the, right? So I think, we are going to be going, or I think they will be picking Zachary Shade here at number 2. Not the Washington, sorry. With the Houston Rockets, I think there's going to be two options that they're going to be looking at. I think they will definitely take a look at Donovan Clingan, and in my opinion, I think they'll look at Reed Shepherd. Both, players do complement the team very much. If you think about what the Houston Rockets, thought about doing during the trade deadline last year, they were in discussions of trading for Brook Lopez. And when you look at some of the trades that they did last season, they made a trade for Steven Adams. So that kind of tells you the type of player that they want. Now, if you play Donovan Clingan alongside Alperen Şengün, I don't know how great of a fit that'll be. So maybe they don't go Donovan Clingan, but I think they will definitely give it some thought, especially if he can develop that 3-point shot. And if they pull him in for a workout and they see that he's more than capable of shooting that 3-point shot, I think that's the player who they'll end up picking. The other player who I was mentioning is Reed Shepherd. Again, I think that's another player who can complement Alperen Şengün, who can definitely space the floor. I know this team definitely lacks 3-point shooting, right? That was one of their main holes in this team. So Reed Shepherd definitely provides that for them. He's also great defensively. He's a little undersized, right? He's listed at 6'3", but he averaged a pretty good amount of steals in college. I think he averaged either 2 or 2.5 steals. per game. So he's, no slouch on the defensive end. I think another player who he can definitely learn from is going to be Fred VanVleet. Maybe he can, fill that void once Fred VanVleet does leave. Fred VanVleet only has 2 years left on his contract, so I don't think he's a player that the Houston Rockets will keep long term. But that's the only reason why I think Reed Shepherd can be a player that they definitely take a hard look at, especially with having Amen Thompson, another player who can't shoot and who they ultimately thought can play their point guard. But so yeah, but for this draft here, I'm gonna be going Donovan Clingan only because with my last draft I did choose Reed Shepherd. So just to kind of mix it up here and give you a little bit of a different look and how the draft can pan out, I'm gonna be going Donovan Clingan here. Now with the fourth pick, I think just based off different interviews that I've seen for a lot of these players, I think some of the players that the Spurs will look at the fourth pick, if these are the players remaining, are going to be Rob Dillingham, Nikola Topic, Reed Shepherd, and Stefan Casso. One being because we need a point guard to give the ball to Victor Wembanyama, and watching interviews of Reed Shepherd, to me, he just seems like a Spurs player. He has a great demeanor. He has great character. He's a team player. He's a winning type player. Again, he's no slouch on the defensive end. He provides a need as far as spacing the floor, which we definitely need because we had Trey Jones can't really shoot. Jeremy Sohan can't really shoot. We had Julian Champagnie. Yeah, he can shoot, but I mean, he was very, very streaky. We had Victor Wembanyama. Although he's a capable shooter, his percentages weren't the best. But obviously I'm a strong believer that he'll pick up those percentages going forward. It was just more so him being a rookie and his shot selection in the beginning of the season, which kind of hurt his percentages to begin this season. But obviously that'll get better over time. So I'm not too worried about that. But yeah, Reed Shepherd, man, I think he can definitely play make. He didn't really get that much of opportunity in college playing alongside Rob Dillingham and DJ Wagner. So, playing with players like Devin Vassell and Victor Wembanyama, that'll definitely, take the pressure off of him. And I don't think he's going to be a player that gets, double team or triple team or anything like that. So I don't think he'll have too much trouble bringing the ball up the floor. He can definitely, throw some lobs, and as I mentioned, he'll just be a great addition as far as spacing the floor. So I think though, out of the players remaining, I think they'll go Reed Shepherd only because if they don't take him at 4, he'll definitely be gone by the time they get to 8. So I'm gonna be going Reed Shepherd here. Now with the fifth pick, I think the Detroit Pistons are wanting a player who one has good upside and two can potentially space the floor. Now looking at the players remaining, there's not really too many players who I have confidence in them spacing the floor. The players that I'm looking at are probably going to be, or I think they'll end up looking at is probably going to be Cody Williams, Dalton Connect, and Matas Buzelis. I'm not going to pick Cody Williams here only because I picked that in my last mock draft. And just to kind of, again, switch it up with this draft, I think I'll narrow it down to Matas Buzelis and Dalton Connect. Now, when you look at a player like Dalton Connect, I think he does provide a little bit of everything that this team needs. But I don't know if the Pistons will be that gutsy to pick a player that's already 23 years old with their 5th overall pick. I think they want a player with a little bit more upside. Now with Matas Buzelis, although he didn't shoot a great percentage in the G League Ignite, I think he was more than capable of shooting the 3-point in high school. And coming out of high school, he was a top-rated player. He had one of the highest upside coming into the season, and the reason why he's fallen this far was because of his 3-point percentage. But again, same thing with him, playing alongside great players like Cade Cunningham, Asar Thompson, even Jaden Ivey. I think those are players who can definitely take pressure off of Matas Buzelis, and I think he'll have a lot of open shots in the corner or on the wing playing with those players. So just having open shots will definitely boost that percentage, and I think he can definitely get back to where he was in high school. And again, he has great length. He can finish in transition. He's pretty bouncy too. So I'll end up picking Matas Buzelis here with the number 5th pick. Now with the sixth pick, I think the Charlotte Hornets are probably going to want a defensive player, especially out on the perimeter, and a player who can, play make as well. I don't think they go Rob Dillingham because of his, defense and him being undersized at the point guard and him mainly being a scoring guard. I think they already have that in LaMelo Ball and they have, that in Brandon Miller. I think they'll end up looking at either Stephon Castle or Ron Holland here, and I think they'll ultimately go Stephon Castle only because he can play make a little bit. So in the event LaMelo Ball does get hurt again, because I mean, over these past couple of years, he's been unfortunately, injury prone. So if that does happen, I think Stephon Castle can definitely step in that role. He's already mentioned to a lot of people in his camp. Or his camp has mentioned to a lot of people around the league that he wants to go to a team where he'll have playmaking availability. So and even if LaMelo Ball isn't hurt, I think him and LaMelo can definitely play off of each other. LaMelo's has had history of playing alongside, elite playmakers. I mean, look at how he played with his brother in high school with Lonzo Ball, right? They were very successful. So, maybe having that type of player like Stephon Castle, who is, I think, it's kind of similar to Lonzo Ball, especially coming out, coming into the NBA to begin their career. Lonzo Ball wasn't the best shooter either, but he was either right, but was a great passer. So if Stephon Castle can really play make like the way he says he can, then I think it'll be a great pairing. But even if he doesn't develop that much of a playmaking upside or attribute, at the very least, he can be a great defensive player, and he's a winning player. I mean, he won the national championship in college, and he made a lot of sacrifices to ultimately help the team. So, at the very least, he can be maybe like a Derek White type player. Now with the seventh pick, if the Portland Trailblazers, I think they're gonna go wing here. They already have a lot of scoring guards. They have Anthony Simons, Scoot Henderson, and Shaden Sharp. Both all players who I think have all star capabilities and upside. Right, so I think they will definitely look at Ron Holland and Cody Williams. Cody Williams is a player that has been rising in a lot of people's mock drafts. He's been doing really good in a lot of workouts. He didn't really make bad decisions. He can shoot the ball. He shot a good percentage in college, and with having a player like Scoot Henderson, I think you do need some floor spacers on the team, and Cody Williams is, pretty good, defensively as well. He's compared to a player like Jaden McDaniels, but so if he's anything like Jaden McDaniels, I think they, have no hesitation with picking a player like Cody Williams here. Now with the eighth pick, I think with the players remaining, I think the Spurs will actually go Nikola Topic here, only because if it doesn't work out with Reed Shepard with his playmaking, I think they have a backup in Nikola Topic who is and probably the best playmaking guard in the draft class. I think the only reason why he's fallen this far is because of one, he can't really shoot, so he doesn't really help us in that way. But two, he's hurt the same knee twice already, so hopefully he's not injury prone. And only time will tell, when he gets reviewed by a lot of the NBA doctors, and they'll be able to take a look to see what's really going on with this knee and see if it's something um, to steer them away from picking him. But if all is well, I think they do pick Nikola Topic here, and if you're a Spurs fan, I think we addressed two needs. We addressed spacing with Reed Shepard, and we address playmaking with Nikola Topic. So I think one of those two players will be starting, if not both, next year. So I think they'll go Nikola Topic. Now with the ninth pick, Memphis Grizzlies. For me, I think this is going to be an easy pick. I think they will go Ron Holland. I think he complements this team very well. He provides size at the forward position. Looking at their team, they have John Morant listed at 6'2". They have Marcus Smart listed at 6'3". Desmond Bain listed at 6'5". So they're pretty small. And Ron Holland, he's listed at 6'7". He's great defensively. He has a high motor. He can get a lot of rebounds, and playing alongside John Morant, running in transition, I think that would be like a highlight reel waiting to happen with both of those players playing together. So I think it'll be a great a great fit for both parties with Ron Holland and the Memphis Grizzlies. Utah Jazz. I think this is where I'm gonna have Rob Dillingham fall to. It's really hard for me to see Rob Dillingham fall this far, to be honest. Um, I actually hope the Spurs take him with either the fourth or eighth pick, but it's hard to see that happening. If the Spurs do end up taking Reed Shepard at four, it's hard to see them taking two small players in the draft. So. But yeah, Rob Dillingham, man, I think he's a natural bucket. He reminds me of a lot of Garland from the Cavs, but just more of a scoring machine. I think he's very capable of being a great playmaker. The only downside with him is that he's very small again, and he's small in weight. I think he only weighs like 165. I weigh more than that, and I'm 5'11. So that's kind of crazy that he's that thin. But as I mentioned, he's just a bucket getter. He can score, at the three, mid range, floaters. He can drive in pretty well. Um, and yeah, I mean, if he doesn't work out being, a starting point guard, he can learn a lot from Jordan Clarkson, and compete for maybe the six man of the year, right? But yeah, a lot of upside with Rob Dillingham if all works out. If he can develop a lot of his playmaking skills, he can be a player like, again, Darius Garland or even Trey Young. So um, yeah, I think they'll take Rob Dillingham here. All right, Chicago Bulls. I think they're going to be in the market of picking a power forward or small forward, especially with Patrick Williams wanting a good amount of money and him wanting to test out free agency. So who knows what happens with him? I think they'll go with a player who has good upside. I mean, when you look at their history, right, especially the draft that they chose, Patrick Williams, they weren't scared to reach with taking him. I think they took him with the fourth pick. So with that in mind, I think they wouldn't be scared to take a player like Tijon Salon, who I think with the players remaining has the highest upside with left on the board. So he's a very tall and lengthy player. He's listed at 6'10". He could do a lot of everything, but isn't really great at one specific thing. So if he can be an elite 3-point shooter or elite rebounder, something like that, I think he'll be a really, really great player. He's from France, so I haven't really seen too much film about him since he didn't play college ball. But just looking at the little bit of highlights that I did watch, he looked great in transition. He looked like a capable shooter. He shot pretty well with his catch and shoot threes, and yeah, I mean, if he can develop, right, I think he could be the steal of the draft. So yeah, I think they'll ultimately go to John Solon here. Now with the Oklahoma City Thunder, I think this is a no-brainer. Again, I mocked this with my last video as well. I think they'll end up picking Dalton Connect, especially if he's here with the 12th pick. I think he's the type of player that they wanted Gordon Hayward to be. And when you look at the playoffs that they played against the Mavericks, they sat out Josh Giddey a lot, and they end up playing Isaiah Joe. Isaiah Joe's listed at 6'4", so with picking Dalton Connect here, he's a little taller. He's listed at 6'6". And he's not a young player either, so I don't think he'll be scared of the lights, and he's more of a win ready now player. And he was a bucket in college. He was in college, like, he was their number one player, so he's used to having being double team. I know he's had a couple 30-40 point games in the tournament, but playing alongside players like Chet Holmgren, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, and Jalen Williams, that'll just take a lot of pressure off of Dodson Connect and make shooting that much easier for him. So I think he'll fit in very easily, and it'll be a match made in heaven, in my opinion. Now with the Sacramento Kings, there's a couple of different options that I think they'll go. I think they'll definitely take a look at Jacoby Walter, and they'll look at Isaiah Collier and Jared McCain, and maybe even Devin Carter, in my opinion. Players like, well, for one, Malik Monk, he is an unrestricted free agent, so he's going to test free agency, and with the Kings, Salary, there's only so much they can offer Malik Monk, so you definitely run the risk of losing Malik Monk. And if that's the case, again, you're going to need someone to fill that void. You're going to need a floor spacer, especially when you look at De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis, who really aren't players that shoot that many threes, right? And you need players around them to space the floor, so that way they can do what they do down in the paint. Um, and for me, I think they'll end up picking Jacoby Walter. A lot of people compare him to KCP, so if he's anything comparable to KCP, I think he'll be a great fit for this team. I know that in the beginning of his college career, he was a great 3-point shooter, and I think once the word got out that he was one of their best players and a really good shooter, his percentages at the 3-point line dipped a little bit, only because their main focus became to get him off the 3-point line. But again, with playing alongside De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis, I think that'll just open up the floor for him and definitely increase that percentage again. And he's listed at 6'5", so he's not a small guard. He has some size to him, and he's pretty great defensively, which is something that they do need on this team. Some defense, especially out in the perimeter. Can't have Keegan Murray doing all the work. Now with the 14th pick, I had them taking, Cody Williams with their 7th pick. Again, I think they'll attack the forward or maybe even the center position, going forward. And I'm gonna go with a little bit of a curveball here. I'm gonna have them take Tyler Smith. I think he's a great floor spacer for this team. He can shoot the three ball very, very well. He's listed at 6'10", so he's not a small forward at all by any means. He could probably even be like a small ball 5. When you look at their center positions in Portland, you have Robert Williams, who's injury prone, so who knows what'll happen there. And if they want to decide to trade Robert Williams, then you can do so, especially if you have a player like Tyler Smith as your backup, and maybe he can provide some competitiveness to DeAndre Ayton. I'm sure a lot of Blazers fans weren't too happy with the production that he brought to the team, especially for a player that's making $34 million a year. Again, just having someone to compete with every day in practice, I think that'll just push each of them even more to get better, and hopefully that's the case. But if they don't want to go small ball 5, I think he'll again be a great power forward. He can space the floor. I think he can be. When you look at his profile, they have him compared to a little bit of Michael Porter or Lauri Markkanen. I even seen some comparisons to like Channing Frye, but he's only 19, so he's a young kid, and maybe he can beef up a little bit more. Maybe he can develop more of a mid range, and who knows? I think sky's the limit for this kid. It's all about work ethic, right? So, so he has shot creation upside. He's solid. He's a solid rim protector. Potentially versatile defender. So I think this will be a pretty good pick for the Portland Trail Blazers here. Tyler Smith. All right, so that completes the video for today. Just a little recap. I have Alex Sarr going number 1 to the Hawks, Zachary Risachet 2 to the Wizards, Donovan Clingan 3 to the Rockets, Reed Shepherd 4 to the Spurs, Matas Buzelis 5 to the Pistons, Stephon Castle 6 to the Hornets, Cody Williams 7 to the Blazers, Nikola Topic 8 to the Spurs, Ron Holland 9 to the Grizzlies, Rob Dillingham 10 to the Jazz, Tejan Salon 11 to the Bulls, Dalton Connect 12 to the OKC Thunder, Jacoby Walter 13 to the Kings, and Tyler Smith 14 to the Blazers. As always, if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like, subscribe if you are new. Again, I'm going to be dropping content weekly, hopefully 2 to 3 times a week. Any support that I can get, I definitely appreciate it. So again, thank you all so much for tuning in, and see you all on the next one.